Raul.
How are we doing?
How you doing?
Good, good. Hey, the new Enphase batteries. I know that we're getting an awful lot of questions from customers, and they're talking about, why are we choosing the Enphase batteries? And I know that we've always talked about, their ecosystem, the technology, the reliability. But can we get a little bit deeper with the customers, to give them a little more information?
Sure.
I had a customer today ask me the question, it says, hey, what makes difference in the technology of the Enphase? Like, what makes it better?
Okay, so we can start with the ecosystem. For example, Enphase has one of the best ecosystem out there.
And when we talk ecosystem, we're talking about how everything works with each other, how cohesive it is.
Exactly. So with only one manufacturer, you have microinverters on the roof, you have batteries, you have the system controller, and all the components, including software, that makes the system works. You don't need to be having multiple manufacturers in one installation.
Absolutely, because I've heard the nightmares, for example, with some of the other battery systems, where the inverter is made by one company, the panel, the centralized inverter is made by a different company, the battery is made by a third company.
Yep.
And when something goes wrong, it's really hard to tell who's doing
only
what.
one neck to show, So it's better to have only one warranty. So everything is under the same warranty.
And also helps the customer with following up, because it's much easier to, if something goes wrong, it's just the one company to deal with.
Yep. So that's number one, the best ecosystem. Then we can talk about technology. Like Enphase has great, awesome technology.
This is the third generation of these batteries, isn't it?
Yeah. So Enphase started with the Enphase battery 10 and 3. Then it changed to 10T. And now we have the third version, like you said, where you have the Enphase battery 5P.
Wow. So in a very short period of time, they have kept developing and bettering and improving safety-wise. So everybody's so concerned with safety.
That's one of the main, that's what I like most about Enphase, the chemistry that it has. So it has an iron-based chemistry, NFP, instead of NMC, like other manufacturers. So that makes it so safe. So it doesn't have that thermal runaway in case there's a fire, which never happens, but if, let's say, there's a fire or something, Enphase is less likely to have a thermal runaway.
I understand that the Enphase cooling system is passive.
It's a passive,
so
yeah. It's not a mechanical.
Not a mechanical.
It's not a liquid cooling system like for example, the Powerwall from Tesla, that has a more complex cooling system.
So it's less things that can go wrong.
Yeah. So sometimes homeowners says that why Enphase occupy more space on the wall, and what I usually tell them is you have to look at the cooling system because it's a safer technology. It needs more area, more space, more volume to cool off those modules, those batteries.
So unlike some of the competitors where you can stack them on top of each other, also creating a much higher risk factor.
Yes.
These ones are apart from each other, allowing for natural cooling.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's one of the main reasons. Then you have power and energy density. So Enphase has a very high energy density, but even better, has one of the highest energy dense power battery modules. So that means that per kilowatt hour, you have the highest kilowatts of power.
So if a homeowner is looking to really draw a lot of power, they have higher consumption and or individual loads that use more power, this will be a better choice for them.
Yeah, so the three main loads that I always say is central AC units. You have the water heaters, especially if it is a tankless water heater. And then you have pumps like pool pump, well pumps, etc. Those are the three main sources of consumption loads.
And the Enphase batteries can run those loads?
Of course, if you design the system properly, like you have enough batteries, you can absolutely have, like, just think that only 5 kilowatt hours of battery has 7.6 kilowatts of power for 3 seconds. So that literally, if you scale it up to 25 kilowatts system or 20 kilowatt hour system, which is typical for a residential installation, you can literally have power for all the appliances, all the loads.
So you're telling me that I can literally put enough batteries in my house today that I don't have to change my lifestyle and I can power up all the loads in my house?
Yes. If you size the system properly, you won't notice the difference.
So a lot of companies offer that. A lot of companies promise that. And we're seeing, the general power cell. We're seeing the solar age batteries come onto the market. We're seeing, I believe Panasonic has come out with batteries onto the market. You name it. There's so many coming into the market today. Why does Enphase stand out?
If you design the system properly, like you have enough batteries, you can absolutely have, just think that only 5 kilowatt hours of battery has 7.6 kilowatts of power for 3 seconds. So that literally, if you scale it up to 25 kilowatts system or 20 kilowatt hour system, which is typical for a residential installation, you can literally have power for all the appliances, all the loads.
So you're telling me that I can literally put enough batteries in my house today that I don't have to change my lifestyle and I can power up all the loads in my house?
Yes. If you size the system properly, you won't notice the difference.
So a lot of companies offer that. A lot of companies promise that. And we're seeing, the general power cell. We're seeing the solar age batteries come onto the market. We're seeing, I believe Panasonic has come out with batteries onto the market. You name it. There's so many coming into the market today. Why does Enphase stand out?
One of the things that I always tell the customers is, why do you want to have a more dangerous system in your house? Like, you want the safest system possible, right? So Enphase has a AC topology. That means that everything is in 240 volts. So that means that the output for your batteries is in 240 volts. The output from the solar microinverters on the roof is 240 volts. So it's a safer voltage, safer
Absolutely.
Electricity voltage. So if you compare that to other manufacturers that still are using high voltage DC batteries, I rather not have that high voltage in my house.
Absolutely.
Especially if you have, for example, string inverters that you bring, 600 volts from the roof, or if you have high voltage batteries that you have 500 volts on the batteries. Those, if there is an arc or if there is a fault in those cables, on those connections, the damage is going to be much higher. So that's number one, safety. Number two is scalability, so flexibility in my system. Enphase, because it's a modular ecosystem, you can add as you need to. You don't have to have big chunks, like big blocks. The building blocks are much smaller. So we're talking about 5 kilowatt hour building blocks. So it can accommodate more to your needs.
So you're saying that I can start, for example, with a 5 kW battery, and if I decide that I need more, I can add another 5. You
can scale all the way to 80 kilowatt hours. So which is basically, like, nobody uses that.
I know a lot of manufacturers are like 15 kW and then another 15.
That's one thing that you need to always look at when you are shopping for a battery. Look at how scalable is gonna be your system. So maybe today you only need 20 kilowatt hours, but who knows, maybe 3 years down the line, you might need 30, 40, 60.
I know in my house, when we first did solar 10 years ago, my consumption was much lower. Over the years, as we added more electric cars and other things to the mix, I needed more, and I was able to add more microinverters and more panels to my roof time. Yep. So you're saying we can do the same thing with the batteries.
Yep.
We can scale it up to the customer's needs.
Yep.
That sounds like a much better value.
I love that. I love that. That's why I love Enphase, because you start very slow, it's very small system. You don't really need to worry too much about, is my system exactly what I need to right now? Maybe you start with 25 and, I just need a little bit more. Just add another 5. So you need to be in big building blocks.
Right. And I've heard that Enphase has even started opening up their own plants in the United States, so they're having US manufacturing now.
Yep. That's awesome. That's awesome. Having local manufacturers.
As a homeowner, I would think that it'd be much easier to deal with the warranty issue with a company that actually has U.S. manufacturing than
Compared
with a
to-
company that has to take, send it overseas to get repaired, or
Which-
with this ecosystem that we're talking about before, especially everything being under one umbrella, it must also be easy for the monitoring.
Yeah, so Enphase has, in my opinion, the best software and monitoring system that there is. You can see module level information that you cannot see anywhere else.
And does that extend to the battery also?
Two, you can see module level parameters and
Going into the EV charging market.
yeah. So we Enphase presented in the last conference call the new charger that they're working on, which is going to be vehicle to home and vehicle to grid capabilities. So that's going to allow your car to be also part of the Enphase ecosystem, Enphase energy system. So that means that you can use your car as another battery. You can use it the same way you're using these new 5P batteries. So you can plug in your car and you can use the energy stored in the car to charge your batteries or to charge your supply the loads in your house, and also use the excess solar to charge your car, charge your batteries. And when you are in an outage, you plug in your car and you have the extra energy from those batteries in your car.
Generac has been very strong lately. They have a system called the power cell. And the power cell is one of the things that people recognize the brand, and they really, have adapted to the system based on the Generac generators from the past. And I commend Generac for making the switch to future technology, because this is the future. This is the future of the homes. Yet I don't feel that their batteries can measure up to the Enphase battery. Starting with the DC-based system to the AC-based system. What do you feel?
That's the first thing, that you need to think that Generac is using an inverter that is not only gonna be used for the solar panels on the roof with their optimizers, but also that inverter is gonna be used for the battery energy conversion. So you have your DC batteries that you can scale it up, I believe, to 40 kilowatt hours. And that battery is connected to the same inverter that is connected to your optimizers. So you have one point of failure. I don't like that. I like modularity. And also, if you want to scale up your system, you have to add another inverter to add more batteries. So let's say that it's not as flexible. It's not 80 kilowatt hours. And you are limited to the power of that inverter. If you compare that to Enphase, you have a AC bus that you have the battery input and the solar microinverters input, and everything is added up on that AC bus.
So what you're saying is, with the power cell, I'm basically locked into the energy of the inverter.
The power of the inverter,
Whatever size inverter I have, 7.6, 10, whatever, I'm locked to that power of the inverter. While with the Enphase, not only do I have the power of the batteries, but I also have the power of the solar panels.
Of the solar panels, yeah. So batteries has an inverter. In case of a Generac, the batteries itself does not have an inverter. So that means that batteries are not gonna produce.
So it sounds to me, as far as value is concerned, from a homeowner perspective, I will have a much better value with the Enphase system, because not only do I have the power of the batteries, but I also maintain the production of the panels, adding additional power to my house.
Yep.
It sounds like I can run longer with an Enphase system, because the production of those panels is additional to the battery.
It's additional.
that
That's something that people don't understand. With Enphase, you add up the batteries and the solar at the same time in the same bus. So if you have, 10 kilowatts of solar in the roof, you might add more batteries and increase the power of your system. So you might run more loads simultaneously if you add more batteries. That doesn't happen on the Generac or any other solar edge system. Like anything that has a single point inverter where you have to take the batteries and solar through it to have an output, it's not gonna be as scalable. You can add more batteries, you're gonna have more runtime, but the power doesn't increase. In Enphase, you can add more batteries and you have more power in an off-grid situation.
So when I add more batteries with an Enphase system, I'm adding more amount of power, meaning that I can run more loads, and I'm adding more time.
More time.
When I add another battery, for example, to the power cell, the solar edge, the LG Chem, when I add another battery, I'm only adding time. I'm not adding more power.
Only time.
So if I have loose terms here, I have an air conditioner that needs, and I just say 40 amps. With Enphase, I can add power to get to the 40 amps. With the other batteries, I can add more running time, but I can never run that AC because the power won't be there.
Exactly.
It was such a simple concept that everybody will come to the technology of the Enphase.
People don't understand how high the Enphase ecosystem, how better the Enphase ecosystem is when you look at how modular the system is. So you can just add more and you're gonna get more, not only energy, but also power. People don't understand that.
Well, I think one of the beautiful things about the Enphase system is how much time they've taken to listen to the consumers. Enphase has always been known as a company that basically are bringing out the products based on the customer needs. I know that. I personally have had a lot of conversations with their engineers and with their company, and I've always felt like they have an ear listening to what we're saying. They're always listening to what are our needs, and then 2 or 3 months down the line, I see the products.
I love how Enphase listen to our needs and complaints, and this new battery is an example of that. We have been complaining about the communication system, the Zigbee communication, for a long time. We have noticed that in previous version, you need to follow a very strict design requirement. You have to have all the components very close to each other in order to communicate properly. But in this new system, you can literally have batteries on the opposite side of the house, on the other side of the house, and have components distributed throughout the house, and you're still gonna have the communication.
And this is a direct result of listening to the needs of the market and adjusting to them.
Yep.
So to wrap things up, I think what we're saying here is that Enphase battery systems are probably the best choice in the market today based on the ecosystem, everything being built by one manufacturer, everything being put together by one manufacturer. If you have any kind of issue, you're only dealing with one company rather than trying to deal with 3 or 4 different companies. I think there's no worse experience than companies blaming each other.
Definitely.
Oh, it's a fault of the inverter. Oh, it's a fault of the battery. Oh, it's a fault of the disconnects.
It's my favorite.
Everything under one umbrella makes it much easier.
Mm-hmm.
The customer service experience has got to be much easier. The technology itself, I think we're looking at, this is the 3rd generation, like we mentioned, and we're looking at a constant development of better improvement. Wow, Eduardo, this really looks, it looks very nice.